Hello, Heather Broadbent here, a violinist and instructor of online violin education where I train violinists all over the world how to improve their technical skill sets for more melodic playing. Welcome to day one of Fantastic Fundamentals 5-day challenge. Today we're going to be discussing specifically the violin hold and the left hand, how it comes to the violin. So I will be giving you the instruction within this video, but in the email that you receive, you will have a link as well to a playlist of videos that I have put together for you to even give you more information on how to hold the violin. Now, holding the violin is something not to be underestimated. We really need to set up our violin journey with our violin hold, and this violin hold needs to be a consistent violin hold, because if it's not consistent, then your setup and your foundation is constantly going to be wavering, and then we are setting our foundation basically on sand or on waves and not a solid foundation. We really want to set up a solid foundation. It's extremely important. So for newbie, beginner violinists, this is something really to watch out for, setting up this foundation. For intermediate violinists, you can check out to make sure that you're set up well. Even advanced violinists, it's always good to go back and just kind of check in and make sure that you're relaxed and set up ergonomically for your best for your body. And with that being said, we all have different bodies. We all are structured differently, so what may work for one violinist may not work for another. I'm just going to give you some rules of thumb that you can follow along and some formulas just to check to make sure things are working out for you. Okay, so first off, when you bring the violin to your violin hold, you want to always bring the violin to you and never go to the violin. What I mean by this is we want the violin to come to us and not for us to reach out or try and grab it or do anything like this, because that is putting us actually at an unnatural position. So you want to think of yourself standing nice and tall, solid and balanced. Straight shoulders, nice tall neck, not to be leaning over or hunching the shoulder up or anything like that. Just really nice and tall. And then bring the violin to you, okay? So obviously with your left hand, with the violin in hand, to bring the violin to you. And I already know what I need. I've been playing for over 30 years, so I have a shoulder rest that works for me and a chin rest that works for me. This is a chin rest that I switched to when I was in the university, and I've stayed with it ever since, and that was about 20 years ago, so I haven't ventured away from this chin rest, and I'm very happy with it. It's a Carl Flesch chin rest with a hump. If you're wondering which chin rest I use, it's a center mount, but I'm not saying that this works for everybody. This is what works for me, okay? But you can give it a try. It may work for you. And I follow along with the idea of Ruggiero Ricci's idea of following your eyes going straight down the fingerboard, and that's why I choose the center mount. And plus it's more comfortable for me. And as soon as I went to the center mount, I didn't have the violin hickey. And violinists, you may know what I'm referring to, and those that don't, if you practice hours upon hours, you'll get this violin hickey here, a red mark. And once I switched to this chin rest, it was a perfect setup for me, and I'm completely comfortable, and I don't have the infamous violin hickey. Okay, so and so you want to just make sure that when you bring the violin to you, that it's comfortable for you. So you may need to adjust or use a sponge or shoulder rest. Again, I'm not saying yes or no to these things, but just find what works correctly for you, okay? And then you have your violin hold, all right? Whatever you find to work for you, you want to keep that setup as solid and consistent as possible, all right? So that's the violin hold. All right, and you'll have a playlist if you need more information on that to check out exactly on how to do a violin hold or how to have a violin hold. We want to stay as relaxed as possible because you're going to be playing the violin on hours upon hours, right? And so we don't want to be setting ourselves up for anything that is an ergonomic strain for us, okay? And then as far as the left hand, you always want your palm to face the fingerboard, all right? So if I turn around here, the palm is facing the fingerboard here, and you can wave. You know, so for adult violinists, I find that they really struggle with this motion. I've been playing since I was 9, and so for me, it's just it's just very natural. But I did break my wrist 7 years ago, and I was casted, so I actually had to really work on twisting my arm back to what was feeling natural. So I understand adult violinists how that can feel unnatural and be quite painful, because I had to do that as well after I was casted for 6 to 8 weeks. So that's the left hand. You want your left hand to be really nice and relaxed. Shake it out. The best left hand is always a relaxed left hand. You do want to be holding the violin with your jaw and shoulder so you can have it like this without it dropping or leaning forward or falling down, because then that'll alleviate some of the responsibility for the left hand, and your left hand will be able to eventually vibrate and shift and do all these wonderful techniques that we need it to do. And if you don't have your left hand set up properly at the beginning of your violin journey, and then you need to learn vibrato, it's going to be very difficult. So do make sure your wrist is nice and straight, and this is why it's so important to have the foundation set up, because it's not just for the beginning of your journey, it's for your entire journey. And if you set up improperly and continue to play with tension, strain, or improper posture, then when you get into the more difficult techniques, it's going to be really difficult. And a lot of violinists either hit plateaus or get too frustrated and stop because they find that they would have to actually relearn or retrain what they need to do in order to do the more advanced techniques. So you don't want that to happen. That's why the fundamentals are so important, and to make sure that you are setting yourself up for not just the present moment, but for the future progress that you will be having. And that progress is going to be much faster if you have the proper fundamentals in place, okay? So for today's challenge, you get to inspect your violin hold, watch the playlist that I put together for you, and hold the violin up listening to some repertoire that you're working on. So if whatever piece you're working on, you can listen to that while you're holding your violin. If you find that it's slipping, you know, just kind of inspect your shoulder rest and your chin rest setup, that it's really comfortable for you. You want your neck to continue to be straight up and down and not hunched over when you hold the violin. Same with your shoulder. You just want it to go nice and snug, and that you're standing tall like a tree and very balanced. And be sure to take pictures of your foundation. Take pictures of yourself with the violin hold and share it in the Facebook group. That would be awesome. And day 2 video will be talking about the right hand. Okay, I'll see you then. Ciao.